We're live.
We're live.
Oh, wow, that's exciting.
This is so cool.
Oh, for everyone watching at home, thank you for always bearing with us at the beginnings of our shows because we never know quite what's going to happen whenever the lights come on.
I was gonna say let's wait a couple seconds
I think we
because
might
we
just
know.
we just make sure that we are indeed live and that all of you can hear us because usually somebody chimes in the comments and says we can't hear you at about 3 or 4 seconds in.
Okay, there's our ugly
Hey,
mugs.
We are live. Look at that. We
Okay.
double checked it. Ain't technology grand?
I know there's a couple that are coming still.
Yeah, we've got.
will be joining us.
So welcome to the first ever live audience R&D show. I mean, that's basically what this is. This is the Childhood Cancer Community Symposium brought to you by Voices Against Cancer. And so today we're going to be talking with some friends. We have friends in the building with us. Hey, can we get some kind of hello from the live audience? You guys don't have to do anything. I'm joking. Oh, there we go. Look, proof that people actually came.
I was just gonna say that is not us. That is not our DJ guy who is working on the fake applause. We did try and get an applause meter so people knew, but
what we need is a sign that's just on randomly because nothing strings this show together like tech mishaps and need for applause. So,
yeah, exactly.
We're just thankful that you joined us. For all of you guys that are here live, this is kind of what it looks like when we do this in our basement. Only a lot more anxiety, I think.
A lot more anxiety, a lot more Wayne's World.
Yeah, we're just hopeful.
Less of this and more of the Wayne's World and basement and
you
although
know,
you guys just remodeled, so you don't have wood paneling in your basement. And,
and like I said, at about a minute and a half, somebody goes, "Where's your audio? We can't hear you."
Yeah.
Or are you guys actually going? My wife will come running down the stairs like, "Are you guys going to go live or what?" We're like, "Yeah." Oh no. So we start frantically trying to adjust things. So today is going to be a different type of show. What we're doing today is, for those that are here in person, we're going to be talking live and being able to do a live Q&A with Dr. Elena Lister. And we'll introduce here in a moment. She's joined us on a previous show. She's a wonderful gal and has lots of great tools in her tool belt from years and years of professional and personal encounters with childhood cancer and with illness and grief and loss. So, but it's mostly a Q&A section, and then we are also going to talk about some cool things. We have Becca Howard is with us today. Here she comes. Here she comes, everybody.
Is she in shot?
Yeah. So Becca's here, and she's here to talk to us about kind of an partnership between her and Voices Against Cancer to kind of support the community of families facing childhood cancer in our area. So kind of cool stuff. To introduce ourselves, everybody that probably watches the show knows me that I'm PT Dan. I come about this from just loving you all and wanting to be as best a support as I can be to all of you. And then my buddy Rob, there he is, who is my neighbor. And then also,
which we did not know until, was it like last? No, yeah.
Yep. So
a year and a half ago.
Yeah. And
I see these photos on Facebook and I'm just like, dude, I know where you took those pictures. That's like a block from our house.
Yeah. And I was like, well, that's like almost my backyard. So he was like, oh, we should get together. Yeah. So we became very fast friends. I came to his doorstep and said, "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood." I just kind of walked into his house and took my sweater off. Anyway,
got bit by the dog.
Yeah, I love your dog. I'm determined to make that dog love me. I started bringing like sausage and things into his house, just hoping that he'll love me eventually. Barkley's coming around. I can tell.
Yeah. Okay. You think that?
I can feel it.
Yeah.
So Rob is my neighbor, but his connection to this is much more personal, and he is really the driving force behind a lot of Voices Against Cancer and a lot of initiatives about childhood cancer in our community. So I want you all to know him better because I know him well enough to tell some of the things about his story, but I think you all need to hear this simply because, it's a connecting point for all of us to know that other people in the room have dealt with and faced the same things that you have. So with that in mind, why don't you tell us who you are and how you got here?
Hi, my name's Rob. No.
Hi, Rob.
Thank you everybody for coming. This warms my heart to see everybody in the room and online. Like Dan said, my name's Rob Kiesacker with Voices Against Cancer. My story began well over a decade ago. Our son Ian was diagnosed with medulloblastoma back in 2009. We found out from a earth-shattering scream at about 4:30 in the morning, woke up, went down, grabbed him from his bed, brought him up. My wife, Nicole, who's a physician, looked him over, not even 20 seconds. She said, "You got to get him into the ER now." We did. We later found out that he had about 30 minutes to live after his tumor had exploded, or the sac ruptured.
Yeah.
And it was a golf ball sized tumor, medulloblastoma. Worked with Mayo Clinic over in Rochester, and after kind of the normal, radiation and chemotherapy for a year and everything, he was doing well. We had a couple really, really good years, and then the ironic thing is that, and that's why this community is so important, is because according to the statistics, according to the American Cancer Society, he was a 5-year survivor. We signed that paper, and 5-year survivor. 2 months later, we recognized this bruise on his leg. We thought it was something from him and his sister playing in Legion Lake, and because those lakes are nasty. So anyways, we thought it was that. But we found out that it was pre-leukemia or myelodysplastic syndrome. And so we went back into treatment, and were told that basically because of the previous, I hate those words, because of the previous treatment, they could only do blah, 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 blah. And so at this point in time, it was a bone marrow transplant. And they said 25% chance that it will be a sibling if he has a sibling. Otherwise, we'll have to look out elsewhere. We're going to test everybody. Parents are like a 3% chance, and I matched 100%. I double checked. I'm like, did you actually take my blood? Yeah. I mean, Ian and I went in and we took our blood at the same time. Are you sure we got the right blood? But they said yes. So I think of Han Solo from Never Tell Me the Odds. So we went, yes, we had that, and the bone marrow transplant went great. Except I tried to leave too early because being his donor, I was in the one hospital and he was in the other. Mm-hmm. And so Nicole and Cassandra were there and taking all the pictures and stuff. And my mom's there with me trying to get me up. And I'm like, I got to get over there. And she's like, no, you don't. And I'm like, yes, I do. And then
you still got a catheter.
One vomit later and passing out. Some old lady. We scared some old lady. She's sitting there and she's like, you don't look good. I'm like, I don't feel good. Okay, let's go. We got over there as fast as we could. And so, yes, the bone marrow transplant went good. But then for the next year, he suffered every side effect imaginable: graft versus host, anemia, the cycle of steroids up and down and up and down and up and down. And so then almost a year to that date, they discovered a third type of different tumor. And that one, again, was in his brain, but because of all of the treatment, because of all the steroids, they couldn't even do surgery to find out or to diagnose what it was. And so we talked and we said, we're going to live life the way it should be. And so we came home on hospice. And Ian, do you want to go driving? No. Do you want a beer? Yeah. So, okay. And so we let him try that and anything and everything he wanted to do. We had a support network, which is what we're about. And both sides of the coin. So you have, I was going to start my timer because I ramble and it's in at 9:57. So tell me if I need to. Yeah.
They'll start chucking.
Yeah, exactly.
Eventually, we have a live audience today. They'll tell us.
I know, right? In the comments, anything in the comments, Melissa's manning the comments. So you just make sure. Okay. And so, yeah, I mean, it was only a couple months on hospice, but he lived it the way that he wanted to. He achieved almost everything that he wanted to. And he woke up the one morning and he said, "I'm ready to go. Call Father Morgan." And so he waited that whole day. And when Father Morgan arrived, he said, he was sleeping and we woke him up, and he literally looks at him and he says, "It's about time." I'm like, that's our Ian. And so he continues to show his signs and presence today. Because of him, that I do what I do, that my wife Nicole and our daughter Cassandra do what they do. Our daughter suffers from alopecia, so that is why she has the bald head. It's not cancer. But when we're out in public, there she is.
Here she is.
Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up.
Come on over.
Look at that camera.
Yeah, this is where our audience is today.
This is straight ahead. This is our daughter Cassandra.
She's wonderful.
She is
She
more
keeps
well-adjusted
Barkley.
than I'll never be.
Yeah, she keeps Barkley in line whenever I come to the house, so she's usually keeping him from murdering me.
But it's,
in their
that's usually what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that girl out there is just a godsend. Whenever we talk about families that have been impacted, whenever we have our Voices Against Cancer 605 PopCon and the family event, she's always the first one. She's like, if anybody ever needs to talk, I will be willing to talk with them. She grew up around death and she's used to it. She actually says that she's looking at going into mortuary science. Because of that. I've been around it my whole life, and I'm used to it, and it doesn't bother me, and I can help others. So it's a double-edged sword. You know, we've all heard it in this room and online. It's the community you never want to be a part of, but if you have to be a part of it, it's the one you want to be a part of. And so Voices Against Cancer is what it's all about. You know, Ian passed away on December 21st, 2014, literally the darkest day of the year, literally and figuratively. And so we just kind of do what we do. Voices Against Cancer is about that. We've started, Cassandra and Nicole and I have started Ian's Thumbs Up Fund. We've started Ian Kiesacker Hospice Endowment, which are both important. I've been in charge of the St. Baldrick's Head Shaving event for over a decade here in Sioux Falls. Raised well over $750,000 before Voices started, and Voices Against Cancer is actually a national nonprofit partner with St. Baldrick's Foundation now. And so I'm going to be quiet. We can continue on, and yeah, that's my story.
It's, like I said, it's important for people to know why we're here, and why Rob is the main reason that I'm here, and but all of you are as well, and so I think that. With that in mind, I just wanted to say that we're going to have a Q&A time. There's lots of different people, lots of different stories. We're a diverse community here, but that's a good thing. Diverse community of needs and grief and joy and many other things. So I'm just thankful to be sharing these moments with you all. So why don't we talk about Dr. Elena Lister?
She's sitting there probably
she's ready.
Thinking, come on, folks, let's go.
So
this is an amazing lady. Take it over.
Yeah, she's great. I always I told her that I was going to say this about her, but she's like listening to a female Fred Rogers with a Brooklyn accent. So at least that's what I hear whenever I'm listening to it. But we're from the Midwest. We don't know. She's the associate professor of clinical psychiatry at New York Presbyterian and Weill Cornell Medical Center. She's also the senior consulting analyst for grief at Columbia University Psychiatric Center. She treats adults and kids facing all different types of things in life. And then she is actually, one of the things I love about her, she partners with schools, and I think she can tell us why. She partners with schools about how to talk to kids about grief and loss within the school systems, so that teachers have the tools they need to be able to address students' needs whenever they come in with these situations, and the school can partner with the family then in whatever's going on. So, and
not just childhood cancer.
Yeah, and
right?
To many types of things. However, her connection to childhood cancer is very obvious, and it's very obvious how that informed a lot of what she has become. And I just love her voice and the way that she infuses so much hope into all of the discussions we have. And so I've made friends with her a couple of years ago, probably, I don't know, a year and a half ago, something like that. And I got this, I found out she was writing a book, and I got it, and I read it, and I received it the day before my brother passed away. And it has been a great guidebook with lots and lots of practical stuff and checklists and all kinds of things, and to help you not miss beats and not miss opportunities for helping families face or helping your family or kids around you or whoever to face grief. And it's really, really good to check yourself too. Like I read it and go, ooh, I need to think about that. So without further ado, let's bring on the inimitable Dr. Lister. There she is. It's very sunny where she is. Looks great.
Hi, guys.
Backdrop.
So Dr. Lister, thank you for being with us. Thank you for taking the time. I know your situation is kind of unique today, and if you need to duck out, I think most of our audience will know why, but if I would love for you to even be able to tell that too. But while we're just making our introductions, you're the co-author of this fantastic book, Giving Hope. And it's great. I'm on like 2.5 through. So like at 2.5 times through, I'm still learning stuff from this book. And but I was wondering if you would just we love backstories. We're superhero people, superhero fanatics here. What we'd really like is your origin story, if you would. So can you just kind of tell the live audience here and the folks at home, you know, how you got here today?
Okay, well, wow. Okay. Like Rob, I was connected to cancer because of something that happened in our family. So when I was little, I always wanted to be a doctor. I always wanted to be a psychiatrist, actually. But when I went into psychiatry, I had no plan whatsoever to specialize in grief or loss. And then life happens. And at age 4, our daughter Liza was diagnosed with ALL, leukemia, the really, really treatable kind with a 90% cure rate. And then she died at age 6 after 2 years of in and out of the hospital. And like Ian, she had a bone marrow transplant that went well, but she had graft versus host disease afterwards, just like Ian did. And unfortunately, none of us were matched. So, Rob, I'm so glad you were able to be one. And it was a very, very difficult time for us, but we thought that we were going for cure because it was a presumably curable disease. And then when she was 5 3/4 after the bone marrow transplant, so first she had a round of chemo, she relapsed, had a bone marrow transplant, and then she was doing okay. Not really solidly well, not well enough to go back to school yet. 3 months into that, she relapsed again. And when she relapsed after bone marrow transplant, they said they had nothing else to offer her for cure and that she was going to die. And we had a very wrenching conversation with her oncologist. And then my husband and I had the challenge of telling our children. So Liza was then 5 3/4. Her older sister, Molly, was 8 3/4, that this was happening. And we made the decision, my husband and myself, to tell them. But we waited. First, we told Molly because we felt she needed to be told directly. And then that night, I stayed at the hospital with Liza, who's in the hospital trying to manage pain. And she actually kind of told me she knew. The way it unfolded was that I was sponge bathing her, and she said to me, "Mommy, am I always going to have my leukemia?" So I said, yes. And I said, "Am I going to die from my leukemia?" And then before I could even answer, she said, "Actually, I know it. I know it inside of me. I know I'm going to die from my leukemia. I'm not going to get to grow up she wanted to be a leukemia doctor. I won't get to have a cow. She wanted to have a live cow. Yeah, she loved cows. And then she asked me how soon until I die. So at that point, not only had we decided we would be honest and answer any questions, she basically was already there. She just knew it inside herself. Kind of like the way Ian woke up and said, now's the time. And so we spent the next 3 months, what turned out to be 3 months of her life, living at home. We got her home as quickly as possible. And she was on a PCA pump to manage pain. And like Ian, we tried to do everything that she liked. but it wasn't beer at 5 3/4. It was things. Well, no, whatever works.
Whatever works, right?
Whatever
Whatever puts a
works.
smile on their
Yeah.
face.
And we took her to ceramic studio that she loved. We took her to a movie. Actually, it was a 10 a.m. movie when other kids went around so that she wouldn't get infected with. And she learned to ride her bicycle, a bicycle that we'd gotten her right when she got sick, that she'd never been well enough to ride. And most importantly to her, she learned to read. She hadn't been able well enough to go back to school, and she wanted to learn to read. And she loved books, loved words. What we used to do when she had CAT scans was sit by the side of the machine and read to her as she went through the machine. And they never had to sedate her or anything, because she felt our presence and because books and words got her through. So, and then she was fading, dwindling, and became more and more in pain and less able to eat. And it was clear that she was dying imminently. And she died at home in our arms, as she wished, when she was 12 days after her 6th birthday, which was 2 days after her older sister's 9th birthday. So my daughter Molly has had her birthday influenced throughout. She's now 36, every year with the death of her sister 2 days after. It's a burden to carry. But at that point, what we found was that nobody could talk to us. We were like every parent's worst nightmare. And I don't know if it made it worse that we were doctors, because it freaked people out. It freaked doctors out. And I think it just was too hard for them to feel like, that could be them. And so they, rather than leaning in and being with us and what was agonizing to us, they kind of stepped back emotionally. So I decided that I didn't want that to happen to other people, and that I didn't want them to feel as alone as we did. And now this is going to age me a bit. This was 26 years ago. So nowadays we do talk about it more but I decided that I wanted to be part of that revolution, really a revolution, talking to children about death. And so that's kind of what I've devoted the rest of my life work to ever since then. And like with Ian, Liza lives on because I talk about her all the time. And now all of you know her, which is wonderful. And I teach medical students at Columbia and Cornell here in the city about how to talk with children when they're ill, when they're dying, and how to help parents talk to their children about it, and what is difficult about that, and why do they not want to do it, and how to help them do it. And again, that's because the doctors couldn't talk to us. I never got that training. I mean, I don't know why a doctor who was treating us would know what to do, but now they do. And I think that's really crucial. So that's a lot. See, I can ramble too.
I think these stories are so important, and I love talking about Liza. Actually, I wanted to ask you quickly if we could whenever you first got the diagnosis news about Liza, and I know this would be backing up a ways into the story, but like, can you talk about what kind? I mean, your family, you at least I think had some training to know sort of how to approach this in a healthy manner, and like how to normalize some of the things that were going to be taking place through her treatment. Can you talk to, like I said, we have folks at all different stages within this, within childhood cancer. And so I'm wondering, what kind of steps did you guys take to normalize and sort of explain the life changes that were going to follow for her and for your family whenever you guys got the leukemia diagnosis?
Yeah, that's such an important question, Dan. So if you had asked me 2 years before any of this had happened, would I be able to talk with my child about the fact that she'd gotten this diagnosis of cancer? I would have said, no way do I know how to do that. So even people who don't have my training, you can do it, because I didn't know I could do it. But we were told by her doctor on the phone the night of Halloween, actually, as we were getting ready to carry her around for trick-or-treating, because she was in pain at that point. And so we had to kind of finish the evening, which is something that we continued to do throughout her care. That is, we did all the things that we could that were part of being a kid as much as we could. She was very vulnerable to infections, so we had to be super careful. But that was one thing we did to normalize. Even though she had chemo, she still had to brush her teeth. And she still had to, when it was time for bed, it was time for bed. And, we just decided that some structure was really important to continue. So that was one thing that we did. We acted like she was a normal kid, and normal kids have things they need to do. When she was done with eating, if she was well enough, she had to bring her plates into the kitchen, just like her sister did. And when she wasn't well enough, that was okay. Then we did it for her. But and she had to be kind to other people. Just because you're sick doesn't mean that you get to be, scream at everybody, although you do need to scream sometimes. And we made time for that too. So she wasn't well enough to go to school. So the first thing we needed to do was provide some structure for her at home in between chemo treatments. And so that's one of the ways we did it. We created activities for her every day that she could do so that she had a thing to get up to every morning besides her chemo. And we took her outside as much as possible, because I believe that nature and being outside is good for people, for kids. It's good for me. And then the other thing we did is that weekend that we got the diagnosis, I took my older daughter, Molly, out for a walk. And I said to her, Molly, things are going to change a lot, because Liza's going to need to be in the hospital, and Mommy and Daddy are going to take turns sleeping at the hospital. So you'll have one person home with you always, but the other person will be at the hospital. And it's going to be for a while. And so what we've done is there are a lot of other people besides us who love you. And we're going to get a lot of our friends and family, and they're going to come and be with you if we can't be with you, because they want to help out. And they're actually excited about being able to be with you if we can't be with you. And you're going to go to school still and do all of your stuff. And she was into volleyball and baseball. You're going to do all those things anyway. And Mommy or Daddy will be able to go to the games with you when we can, and so will Liza. So we basically tried to continue life. That's the long and short of it. We told Liza that she had a big sickness, and that sickness meant that she had to have some big, strong medicines that might make her feel a little sick and might make her hair come out, and that we were going to be with her every step of the way. And when she did lose her hair, we asked her if she wanted to have a hat or something. Sometimes she did, and sometimes she didn't. And she was basically at ease with it. This is who I am. So we kind of made it that she was beautiful no matter what she looked like. And disease really does change how your body is. And so she never felt like she looked weird or different, but she did look very different. But she kind of just felt like she was a kid. That was our goal. She was still a kid.
That's fantastic. I'm thankful for the steps you guys took, kind of preempting some of the things she might have felt. Do you felt like she adjusted? Well, I guess I don't know, or at least do you feel like she adjusted over time? And what did you notice about her adjustment to that whole disease paradigm and treatment and stuff?
Yeah, so, you start off with this great deal of energy, and I've seen this time and again because I work with families with children with cancer now, and you don't really know what's ahead of you. And so what we decided to do was really take it step by step. And for the first month that she was in the hospital after diagnosis, she was a trooper. I mean, if you gave her medicine, she took them. They had to stick in IVs. She had very little veins. She had put a Bovia catheter in, other catheters in her chest and so on. She just kind of went with it. And then it got a little tiresome. And so she started getting pretty darn cranky about it. And she had to take this medicine to help fungus not grow in her mouth. and she had to suck on it for 15 minutes and she hated it. And so she developed what we used to call the Miselex dance, which is when it was time for the Miselex, that's what this medicine was called. She would start running around like so that we couldn't, get her to take the medicine. And we just, so she began to object. That's the bottom line. It was all, I'll do whatever I need to eventually. But she began to object. I'll take this pill at 7 a.m., but I'm not taking it at 6:30. And we just decided to give her as much control as she could have. And we had to draw the line when she couldn't have that control. So that, and she got sad that she couldn't be with her friends at school. That was a big pain for her, that she wasn't able to be kind of doing what her sister was doing and what her friends at school were doing. I think those are the main things. She was angry. She used to get angry at what we called her sick white blood cells. Yeah. And we would let her get angry about it because there was stuff to be angry about.
Yeah. Who wouldn't be angry with that? I mean, the children are so resilient, but we often forget some of these things that it's just everybody gets angry. Everybody, it's the medicine talking, it's the illness talking, it's not them.
Yeah, and there's an adjustment factor there that you just can't account for. Kids are used to discovering their autonomy through normal means, and this is not, none of that's all the medical care stuff. That's adult world that we've tried to translate into children and childhood, and it doesn't translate well, and you can see the repercussions, right?
Yeah, and also, there are a lot of indignities with being a patient, and we kind of forget that. And when doctors used to come to her hospital room, she had stuffed animals all around her. She had stuffed cows, of course, all around her bed, and they would just pick them up and look at them and then just plop them down in another place, someplace. And she started getting really irate, like, no, that cowie goes in a different place. I put that cowie in a certain place on purpose. And, so I felt it was important for doctors to understand that for a child in a hospital bed, that's their home right then. And that's their sacred space. And you can't invade it without some respect for that. So we felt that she couldn't be rude, which she sometimes would try to be, but that she had a point, that what she took, instead of the hospital, she used to call it the hospital because it was like her house, for her.
Our son always called it the most expensive hotel without a pool.
That's great.
I love it. It's it's true what you're saying. They build up an army of stuffed animals sometimes to just protect the bed is sometimes their little world, and that's the best way to defend it is have sparkly unicorns or cows or whatever kind of guarding the area. It's good for people to enter that hallowed ground with some respect. I have a ton of questions for you. I was wondering if you guys, without running us too far into the end of time, I don't want to push us out too far. So I would say we have a microphone here so that Dr. Lister can hear you, not so you can be on camera on the live stream, just so you know, okay? That's what we determined. We set it up so that you'll be anonymous, but you can ask the question and then she'll see you as the cool thing. So I thought it might be good for you all, if you've had a question about any stage of this, like my questions are this long and they go a whole page. So I would love for you all, like many of you guys are coming from a context, it might be good to kind of tell her a little bit about yourself, but feel free, ask her a question and we will all learn something, I guarantee you.
And if you have, those of you that are watching online, we do have Melissa here that's monitoring the comments. So if you have a question that you would like to ask Dr. Lister that you're watching online, please feel free. And that's so important because when we talk about illness and death and loss, but then we also talk about hope and we talk about dealing with trauma and grief, and that can be all stages. And that's why we find it so very important that our community is kids that are currently going through cancer, survivors, and families that have lost a child, because you will forever be touched. And like I said, you don't ever leave that community, but we want to provide as much support as possible. And so all of those questions are valid. We want to hear them if you have one. And, you know, we were talking the other night, there's trauma and grief when you hear those words, you have cancer, your child has cancer. That in itself is trauma. And it's that emotional trauma. And so many of it, I'm a man, I don't need to talk about my feelings. Yes,
I do.
you do. Yep. And it's okay for everybody to show those emotions. It's emotions that we don't like to express and feel, but it's part of being a human being. And that's, I think, the only way that we as human beings can our soul can grow stronger. So yeah, as we go through, hop on up, we'll kind of go back and forth. It's very, very, if you haven't figured it out yet, very low key. So
yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, one of us is about to probably get up and get a donut here in any second now. So this is not
Wait,
super formal.
Dan,
Yes, ma'am.
can I add into what Rob just said
Absolutely.
about feelings? Okay, so it's really important, because one of the things we understand now about psychology of the mind is that if you close down all those really painful, difficult feelings, like the agony, the sadness, the outrage, you also shut down joy and a capacity for love and growth. So the only way to really get all of what life has to offer is to let some of the hard and difficult feelings in. And, you know, the way through it is to be connected to other people when you have to carry those difficult feelings. That's what we found every step of the way, that it was through connection about the hard stuff that we got through, whether it was connection within ourselves, connection to other people. And that was true for us as parents and true for the kids. And we met a lot of other kids who had cancer because she was in the hospital, sharing a room often. So I just wanted to second that motion that Rob brought up about the importance of letting in the difficult feelings.
I think it's fantastic. Thank you, ma'am. I just love it. I'm going to keep going with my questions until I see somebody going for the mic, but then I'll happily do it.
Well, just flag us down, Melissa, if there's anybody that
yeah,
needs
and
it
if we get one online, just wave real hard or scream real loud. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the abnormal that exists with medical treatment and all those sorts of things during childhood cancer. Did you discuss the difference between normal and abnormal with Liza throughout the course of her treatment? Did you guys did you feel the need to reconnect her with what should be happening?
Such an interesting question. We didn't in that way. And the reason why is because we felt like we gave that a lot of thought. We felt like who she was at that point was who she needed to be. And that was kind of her normal. So it wasn't the normal we wanted, but it was the only normal she could have. And so we helped her to know all the things she might be able to learn to do. Like when you're feeling better, you'll get to, try to ride your bike and so on. And also, even though she died, for the first year and 3/4 of her treatment, we were going for cure. And we thought she was going to live. And so we talk about hope. We talked about things may be hard now, and you've got a really, really big sickness, but you're getting all big, strong medicines, and you have really good doctors, and they're going to help you get better, until it was no longer true. And then we had to tell her the truth. But in that time of a year and 3/4, we kind of made it, the normal was you're going to get to do those things at some point. And as soon as you're able to be better. And we didn't bring in, and you might not get better, because it's not something she needed to know about yet.
We always say, the comment that we always give so frequently is, normal is just a setting on a dryer. That's it. And I think our society, though, unfortunately, puts such a stigma on you know, having to fit in, and you have to be part of the norm, and you have to do this and that. And it's literally, there is no normal. You know, that was something else that I would get frustrated was, how are you adjusting to the new normal? That's exactly what, you know, I mean, oh, that's not, even when I say, you know, normal's a setting on a dryer, even then it's got its shakes and it bounces back and forth and it does this and everything else. So in my opinion, humanity itself, we just need to throw the word normal out, because there isn't.
Normal's a spectrum.
Yeah.
Yes, and also there's no such thing as normal feelings. What I use words like, if it's relevant, I might say that some feelings are natural to have.
There you go. Yeah.
They're natural to have, and that means the gamut, because there's no feeling that isn't natural to have, basically.
I love that. We actually have a live audience question real quick for you, Dr. Lister.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Hi.
My name is Lori, and we've been through the cancer journey as well with our son, Spencer. He was diagnosed at age 9, and he turned 13 on January 3rd, and he passed away on January 8th of this past year, 2024, or this year, which is actually his twin brother's 10th birthday. So we kind of emphasize with you, but we took a perspective of it for them that it's a celebration. It's their 10th birthday, and it's his heavenly birthday. So they actually went ahead and had their kid birthday party on that day. We didn't cancel, and we let their friends come over, and we celebrated. But my question for you is more in regards to Spencer's friends. I'm struggling as his mom on how to support his really close friends and what my role should be in continuing to reach out, or if that's their parents' role, and what advice you have on, you know, helping the friends, the real close friends, through this loss, and how I can be that support person, what my responsibility is, and how to continue to reach out and help them through the healing as well, if you have advice on that.
Wow, I've given this a lot of thought too. Thank you for your question. And also, what a caring approach you're taking about you wanting to take care of those other children when you're in such pain yourself. It's really remarkable. I wish all people on earth took care of each other in that way. But so one thing we did, so we had Molly, and we were worried about her friends, and then we had Liza and her friends. So for our ill child, we spoke to other parents. We went through the parents first. Now, she was younger. She was 5 and then 6. So these were kids who, you know, play dates were being planned by grown-ups, not them. And but we tried very hard to have children her age be able to understand what was happening. We met with a lot of resistance. So it was very hard to help her friends' parents understand that it was important to attend to their own children's sadness about Liza dying. And so if I could recommend anything, it's just a gentle approach, offering that you can help them think that through if they want to learn to talk with their child about it. If they're already talking with their child about it, then if you feel you can make yourself accessible, because maybe they have questions, or maybe they want to tell you all about your son, things you may not know that they know about your son. So, you know, if you feel it's not too painful for you, it is very painful for some parents to be with your child's friends after your child dies. I think just you showing up and being present helps them see that life continues after such a big loss. That you're walking, you're talking, you're acting like a relatively sane, normal human being. And I use that word normal on purpose just to make fun of it. And inside you're crying, and your heart is breaking, maybe, and you have all sorts of feelings about what's been happening. But they see that somebody gets up and continues life. So I would say one of the ways you're helping them is just by being you, actually, without any particular words, just by existing with the pain that you're carrying. And then the other thing is to offer with parents that you would be available to them if they want to talk. Some kids would like a memento of a child who died. So if there's anything that, you know, if you're willing to part with any particular things, And he had a best friend who really liked his socks. I mean, I don't, whatever. And you're willing, that's another thing that because although that's not him and that's not people, there's a lot of heart in concrete things that represent somebody. And we found that we gave Liza, you're going to hear all about her cows, loved cows, and we gave some of her cowies, they were called cowies, to some of her friends because they felt like they had a little bit of her to carry forward. And I also think I'm really glad you didn't shy away from the notion of celebrating a birthday, because I can't be joyous about the fact that a child dies, but I can be joyous about who they were. And that's the thing that we carry forward, who they were. So I think in celebrating a child's day of birth, even if they've died, you're saying, I celebrate who this child was. And in some ways, who they continue to be as we carry them forward. So, brava. Basically, I don't have much to add to what you're already doing. It's really impressive.
That's really helpful. And it's funny that you talk about giving mementos away, because Spencer, his best friend's name is Spencer, and they went to a Lego. He's really into Lego. So they went to Bricks and Minifigs, was one of the last places he visited. And his friend Spencer bought a Lego set, and he's completed it and asked if he can put it in Spencer's bedroom. So he's doing kind of the opposite. He wants to give it back and have it on display in Spencer's room. So I think that's just really cool too, how kids are resilient and they really want to give and care back as well. And I just think that's pretty cool that his friend, instead of taking something, wants to give something. So another way that they can be involved, and yeah, they're surprised.
Yes, that's right. And then they get to feel like Spencer has some of them in whatever form Spencer is in.
Yeah.
The other thing that we did is that we went to my older daughter's class at school. She was in 3rd grade, and we brought my husband and myself, and we got my older daughter's permission to do that. She was turning 9. And we got my younger daughter's permission, and my younger daughter was really mad about that. That's my private life. How can you talk to that whole bunch of kids about me? But we said, this is happening to your sister too, and she needs help at school. And what our goal there was, and I don't know if that's at all relevant, was to help our daughter Molly be a little bit easier in not having to explain everything herself. So we went and we talked to that class, and we told them that Molly had a sister at home who was dying of cancer. We had written a letter to all the parents first and made sure that, everybody understood what we were going to do and was at ease with it. And we asked them, to ask us questions and to talk with us about it. And to a child, it's 100 of them, they sat in that room and they raised questions. What is Liza doing now? What is she eating? Does she have pain? There was real empathy and compassion. And then they started telling us about all the losses they've had. My grandpa died, and I broke my arm. And I just felt like providing a forum where kids can talk about their own experiences with loss offers an awful lot. And so any siblings out there may need help. I mean, my daughter was turning 9, she didn't know how to really talk about this with her friends. And we didn't want her friends' parents to be freaked out and think they can't come to the house, or, who knows. So it's another thing that you can do, is to help your children who remain carry their sibling forward, or learn to be with their friends about it by giving them words to talk about what has happened.
That's an awesome suggestion. That would be a redo. Because we did leave it on the plates of the other children to address those questions at school. So kudos, that's a really good idea.
And I'd like to follow up with what Dr. Lister said too. And it was I had to chuckle a little bit when you had said, the socks and everything. And I remember, I'm sure that that Lori and David, you have probably 2 drawers full of Grogu socks.
Yeah.
But what you said is so fitting, Dr. Lister, and I just want to reiterate too, is that to offer as much as you want, as much as what you feel comfortable with, and if they reciprocate, or if they take it, then great, and if they don't, that's okay too. Everybody's different, and that's what we always want to provide so many opportunities for everybody, and then we respect your reaction, or your Do you want to? No? Okay, that's fine. And because everybody's different. When Ian passed away, his best friend, Patrick, huge Star Wars, and that's that's how he got away. That's how he coped, was through Marvel and Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and everything else. And we were watching Captain America Winter Soldier, and it's, for those of you familiar, it's Captain America, Steve Rogers, and Bucky Barnes. And Bucky Barnes turns to him and goes, I'm with you to the end of the line. And Ian turns to mom and dad during the movie and he goes, that's Patrick. And he said, I'm Tiny Steve, and Patrick is my Bucky Barnes, and I'm with you to the end of the line. And that's, Patrick has been part of our lives, and we've been part of his. I was his sponsor for confirmation. He wore a little Captain America badge underneath his graduation thing for Ian, honoring Ian. He still shaves his head for Ian.
We stormtrooper getting his head shaved at St. Paul's. Yeah. It's always awesome.
And so that's, you know, without a knowing, and I'm sure he knows, maybe he's watching, I don't know, but Patrick helps us as much as we helped him. And that's the important part. And just like I said, to reiterate what Dr. Lister said, is to offer those opportunities to everybody. And some of them will say yes, and some of them no. And you have to respect that as well.
Yeah, you know, it's really important about that respecting for everybody's process, because everybody processes both illness and loss on their own timetable, and there's no one right way to do it. So there may be some kids in the face of an illness who, like Liza, seem completely stoic at first, and then later all the feelings start to come in. Or some children in the face of a loss who will break down right away and sob hysterically, and their sibling may sit there stoic going like, I'm not feeling anything. Am I a bad child because I don't feel anything? I'm not crying with everybody else. And no, they're not a bad child. They're just not handling their feelings in that way at that moment. So there's no one right way, and everybody's feelings evolve.
So, and then also that, for siblings, you know, because that's our important part. When a child passes away, or even throughout the illness kind of takes center stage. And that might, I mean, it's obviously going to take its toll on the entire family unit, husband, wife, brothers, sisters, grandmas, grandpas. It can extend out. I mean, it is such an evil thing. But are there suggestions, and we've talked about this too with some other parents too, about offering ideas for the siblings and ways to, you know, do you know of like different events or different ideas to bring siblings together? Because we have our PopCon, and the families come together, and those that have lost siblings, to see them interact with each other is so heartwarming, and brings a tear to my eyes. But, you know, what are there strategies and things to make sure we can help the siblings, and, you know, to make sure that they have their own life? You know, like I said with Cassandra, I mean, it's been such a part of her life. She's just grown up with it. It's the norm. So what would you say to that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about all this, because I had so many sorrows in going through our experience, but one of them was, not only was Liza not having a regular childhood, but neither was Molly. And there was nothing I could do that was going to stop that from happening. But what I did decide to do was make sure that she didn't feel forgotten in the course of things, because that's what a sibling often experiences. And so we always had one of us, and we took a financial hit because of this, because of work and so on, but it was too important to us. One of us, we were grateful to be able to do that with our older sibling, the older daughter, the sibling of the child who's ill always, so that she knew that she hadn't been forgotten. And now I am what's called a grief chief. I volunteer at a camp for grieving children, ages 6 to 17, and it's every summer. And it's like a bunch of days overnight, and there are a lot of really fun things, and interspersed are grief activities for the siblings of children who have died. And the one I work at is, in the Northeast where I am, but they take place across the country. And so that's another resource, because then the sibling it's their time and their time only. And they're around all these other kids who had a sibling die.
Before we get off today, I'd love to know the name of that camp. I'd love to do some more research about it if you would. Well, you can just say it. If you want to just say it, that's fine. We'll give him free advertisement.
It's called Camp Erin, ERIN. And that was actually named after a child who died, Erin. And it's the Eluna network, ELUNA network, which runs camps all across the country, or is connected to other organizations that run camps all across the country like this. There's one in Florida, I know. There's one on the West Coast, and I can help you find out more about other places they exist.
I appreciate it. I just signaled Melissa to write it down, but we have actually another live audience question if you're ready for that, Dr.
Yes, I just want to add one more thing. I'm sorry. Those camps are completely free.
Oh, that's wonderful.
For children who attend and for their families. And at the same time as the kids meet, there's a parents camp that goes on also for several days. So the parents have their time being with other parents who are grieving, with professionals like myself there. And then they also do all sorts of silly, fun stuff too.
I think there's one that needs to be
I
happening
think
in
we
Sioux
need
Falls, South Dakota.
I think we need to make this.
Yep.
I think this might be
Yeah.
we might be savagely ripping them off, but we're gonna do this thing.
You guys would be awesome at it. That'd be great.
I'm seeing like
Okay.
an arcade in one side and then the parents doing this thing on the other side.
Oh yeah, totally.
Totally. All right.
Like a
I'm
ball
sorry. I
pit.
didn't.
Yeah. Sorry, ma'am. Sorry.
I didn't mean to interrupt the question, but I wanted
No,
to make
that's
sure
great.
people knew it was free. And it's a not-for-profit completely.
Which is that's how this network we need to get stronger. So
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Ready.
Yeah. Hi. My name is Sarah.
Good to see you.
Yes. Good to see you too. I have a 10-year-old daughter, Harper. And for the past 3 consecutive years, we've been battling her cancer, relapse after relapse after relapse. We just, this past Monday, it's back again, and there's nothing else we can do. So we're at that stage, but I'm kind of snowballing off your what we've been talking about with siblings too. I am a single mom, and it's been just me taking care of this cancer journey, as well as my 5-year-old and my 3-year-old. And they feel this. They don't understand it, but I am obviously very taken away from them. I've got an incredible community of family and friends who are supporting all of us. But my main question, I think, is how do I explain? I mean, that's Harper being sick is all they've known, essentially. I mean, they're 3 and 5. How do I explain to them when they don't even understand really what death is? We haven't had any death in our family. I just was wondering if you had any advice on how I can go about talking to them about it.
Yeah, well, first of all, my heart goes out to you. Wow. It's really amazing what you've had to deal with, and that you're standing here and asking such a coherent question even. And also I want to applaud the fact that you want to talk to them about it, because in my experience over decades since Liza died, 3 and 5-year-olds know completely what's going on, even if they don't have the words for it. And they see that because they see their older sibling upset. They see you upset. They see family and friends upset. They know that something isn't right. And maybe they know that she's sick, and they don't understand all the implications of that. But you've given them some language along the way. And what I'd suggest you do is expand that language. In other words, if you said, she's sick, you can now, or maybe you've given the sickness a name. Have you given it a name? Cancer? You've said
Cancer. Yep.
Okay. So what you can say is the doctors as you, and this is to the 5-year-old and the 3-year-old, I believe in the whole family talking about it together, and you speak to the youngest child level of things, and then an older child you can have further conversation with. But to me, that says we're all in this together, because you are all in it together. So that sickness, cancer, the doctors have been using all the medicines that they have right now for it, but the medicines are no longer working. And that means that she's going to die. And I use that word directly, die, because it's unambiguous and painful. And we don't know when, but sometime, and I would imagine they've given you some sense of that. And so we're all going to be in this together. And anytime you have questions, so maybe they want to, what does that mean? Okay, so you have your own understanding of death and what happens. So you can ask yourself, what of that do you want your children to carry forward? And you can explain it to them in that way. If you believe there's an afterlife, you explain that. If you believe, in God and religion as a structure, you explain that to them and how your religion approaches death. And you can also explain that even though somebody dies, to me, this is true. So you may or may not agree. Whatever your religion, whatever your culture, even though somebody dies, love does not die. And you carry people forward with you for the rest of your life. So they will always have a sister. She may not be here in the form that they're used to and that they wish, but she is there in their hearts and in their love for her and her love for them. So that may seem like a whole lot of, well, I know for a 3-year-old, but I actually believe 3-year-olds can understand it. Thoughts about what I've said so far?
I mean, I think it's incredible advice and I really appreciate it. And I completely agree with you that I think they know so much more than they're able to articulate, but they certainly communicate that they know what's going on with their behaviors because
Yes.
they have lots of behaviors currently above and beyond the typical 3- and 5-year-old behaviors. It's, they lash out and they're upset and they're angry, but they don't know why. But I believe, I guess, that it's sadness and that they feel the feelings of what we're all going through, and the fact that mom is gone so frequently, and but they don't know how to articulate that. So, but yeah, that's wonderful advice, and I very much appreciate that.
Well, I have another thought. Well, Mr. Rogers his name has been thrown around a bunch already, and I am a fan. And Mr. Rogers said, what is mentionable is manageable. I think he said it much better than that, but that's a kind of condensation of it. So I think, or another way to put that is, if you name it, you tame it. So giving children words for that, when they're acting all angry and stuff like that, mad, sad, glad, those kinds of words, really plain and straightforward ones. And that sometimes mad is connected to sad, and people can feel mad and sad, even at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other resource may be books. There are a lot of books, stories, like an aardvark who's very sick and dies, that it's a little bit distant, but it enacts the whole series of events that can happen when someone is ill and then dies. So I think books are a great resource. And a lot of kids I know reread and reread and reread. And one last thought I have is we gave our daughter Molly, and I do this with other kids that I work with, like a big, like a sort of a sketch pad with, but it was spiral bound, and a set of like markers, and with a 3-year-old, not markers, but maybe crayons that are erasable. And, you say, when you're having big feelings, here's a book, and that's your book, and you can do and draw whatever you want in it. And sometimes it helps to say, well, red, you're doing a lot of red. Some people think red is mad. Do you think you're mad? And maybe that sounds a little shrinky, and I am a shrink, so bear with me.
No, I love that. I love everything about that.
Okay. So
shrinky.
to help them just be able to name what it is, because it gives you a sense of mastery yourself. Like, oh, okay, I know what I'm feeling. And confusion is more anxiety provoking. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
thank you. Thank you for sharing it.
And there was one thing too, Dr. Lister, and it reminded me of 2 things when you talked about name it. And our daughter, there are certain things that she's even named, and it's a phenomenal coping skill, isn't it? Where it's you give it a name, and you can have a little bit more control over that. Two other things was there's an actor, Andrew Garfield. He played Spider-Man in one of the Spider-Man series, and he was doing a film, and he had just lost his mom. And the way that he helped to cope and to honor her, because she was in the arts, was for him to do this movie. And I still remember the comment that he had said was that when we show these emotions after they have passed, whether it's a brother or a mother or a child, is that it's okay for these emotions, and these emotions are the love that we weren't able to share with them, but we still want to share with them. So it's okay to show those emotions. And that is still, it's like it's engraved in my mind on how he said that. And I thought that was so fitting, was that that's a good way to explain it, and that it's okay. With the books, we had received one, and it's called The Story of the Dragonfly. And so there's a lot of good books out there that put death into a perspective of a child to help kind of do that. So,
you know, in the book that we wrote, the one that Dan was holding up before, at the back, thank you. At the back, there's about like 30 pages worth of resources, and a bunch of books for kids are listed there, and it's an annotated bibliography, so it tells you what the story is and what we thought was strong about that book, or what we thought might be something to think carefully about that book. So just looking at that online, you could be able to find a whole bunch of books and organizations that can be helpful.
and everybody here will get a copy of the book.
Surprise.
Yes.
All of our live studio audience, we're giving away. Sorry, we're giving it away, but no, we did buy them.
We paid for it.
Yeah, we paid for them, but they're actually giving them away. But no, we're putting a really good tool into the hands of people that can really use it. One of the things you mentioned, Dr. Lister, was the sad, mad, glad, scared way of framing those four big emotions, basically. And you talk about that in here, and that's been one of the best things for me to discuss things with my kids about my brother passing away, helping them to name what they're feeling. And sometimes I say, those are just the big ones. Those are the big umbrellas. There's lots of little ones that sit underneath that. So sometimes sad also has a little bit of embarrassed, and scared has a little bit of embarrassed in there, and that sort of thing. So that's in here. The giant section of resources at the end of this is so helpful. They're so good. And you also went through and footnoted everything.
That is a lot.
There's a lot. So
yeah,
such good stuff in here. There's you guys have highlighted where you talk about different types of death, and different different stories that are listed within the books, or within the book, the chapters about. But it's a very, very helpful guide through this. And so we're giving those to all of you who are here, and surprise, and
wow,
you're welcome. And it's so exciting to be able to give this, because this is good stuff.
I want to add in one more feeling, and that is numb. Because when kids don't feel anything, as I was saying earlier, they feel badly. And so I often work with kids. I say, when feelings are just too much, and it's just too much to feel, so that's what we feel. We sometimes turn off our feelings, and we feel something that we call numb. And that kind of means you don't feel anything but you may get feelings again. It's just right now, it's your way of giving your mind a little rest from feelings. And I endorse it. We all need to go numb sometimes.
I love that, because I think most folks, including me, I feel guilty when I feel numb. And I feel like I need to do something about the numbness. And it's nice to know that lots of folks feel that way sometimes. I think, are we running out of time for Dr. Lister? I think I wanted to watch the time very carefully.
Oh no, you doing okay, Dr. Lister?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. No,
Fantastic.
time-wise, we're doing good.
Can we
I do have,
Go
I've got
for
a question. So we talk about support networks.
Mhm.
And when a child is first diagnosed, it's out here. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And then when you hit that survivor stage, whether it's 1 year out or 5 years out, And for some people, cancer was a chapter in their book. It's closed and they've moved on. That's great, and that's fine, and others want to make sure that they stay involved. Like for us, that's just, and I tell people that sometimes I consider part of my grieving process or part of my therapy is to do this. But also that support network kind of accordions back and forth. And then, once you've lost a child, a lot of times that support network that was so huge just and it just shrinks. And some people have lost friends, some have just kind of faded off. Do you have suggestions, recommendations for those feelings, because that affects everybody differently, but for parents that they thought were friends and then all of a sudden they've kind of disappeared? Have you had experiences with those recommendations or suggestions?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Rob. We had friends. It's interesting. I kind of think of it as a litmus test. There are people who were your close friends who disappear. And then there are people who you weren't really that close to who kind of step up. And it kind of tells you something about who a person is. But almost universally, we pour in when something happens, when there's been a diagnosis or when someone has died, and then we fade off. And I always recommend, if I'm talking to somebody and they're saying, how can I help someone who's had a recent diagnosis in their family or a loss, I say, wait a while, hang back, and a few months down the line, step up. Still offer your caring now, but there's going to be a flood. They may not need, another bowl of fruit. But 3 months from now, they may need somebody saying, how you doing? The other thing is that because grief is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, really, for the rest of your life, whether it's a diagnosis and you're a survivor or whether you don't survive the illness, there's grief at getting sick. You carry that for the rest of your lives. And most people don't think about that anymore. And I know, for example, my daughter Molly did not want to be the kid whose sister died. She did not want that as her thing. And it was very painful to us because her first summer at sleepaway camp after Eliza died, she was asked, do you have any siblings? And my son, I wasn't yet pregnant with my son, and Molly said no, because it was too much for her at that age to explain to kids she didn't know that she'd had this sister who died. I understand it and I respect it. But I have a different way of doing it. When people ask me, I'm older, and when people ask me, how many children do you have? I say 3. I say 2, one is 36 and one is 26 this week, and one who died of leukemia at age 6. And it's a conversation stopper. I mean, really, if you want to stop a friendly conversation cold, just bring this up. And it's very interesting, even with doctors, to see, they go, oh, that's too bad, and they run off after it, okay, that's the end of that. Or people get weepy. I mean, whatever the reaction is, it's very telling. But the other thing I've done, but this is me, I feel a need to help other people talk about this. I bring it up. I say, like I do about my daughter, but she's here, but she died, yes, it's Liza's birthday. 25 years ago, she died. But I'll say today is Liza's birthday, and I'm feeling sad, especially sad or something. And amongst people who are in my inner world, inner circle, that's okay. But I feel like to the people who don't know me as well, it's a way of modeling that just because it happened a while ago doesn't mean that it ended inside of somebody. So if, as you were saying, Rob, you don't want to have that be how you're known, that's your way, and that's fine. There's no one right way. But if you are somebody who wants to bring it forward with you, I want to encourage people not to feel shy about it. It may make people awkward, but we have to get over that in our society. And you model it for them by not being awkward about it yourself, if you can.
We have another live audience question.
Sure. Hi.
Easy for me, so I'm gonna do the best I can.
Of course.
I'm a long-term survivor, like 30 years. So this stuff is really hard. I had leukemia when I was like 3, 4. And I think this is a good time to ask this question. Insights on like resources, because I struggle with my mental health. I started having panic attacks like 10 years post-diagnosis. I'm having a really hard time finding resources, finding treatment, because people want to go the coping route, people want to go the medication route, and it's been a long time, and none of that is really getting to the bottom of it. I had ALL, so it was standard when I was on treatment in the 90s to have cranial radiation, and that's directly on the CNS, and my fight or flight is completely screwed up, and I can't get, do you have any insight or any experience?
Wow. Well, I'm really glad you survived. That's one thing. But there is so much sequela after surviving something like that, besides the physical, the emotional, as you're noting. And, in official terminology, I'd say you have PTSD,
Sure.
post-traumatic stress disorder.
I've long suspected that, yes.
Yeah. But okay, so what does that do for you? Right. I mean, a nice name for it, but okay. And yeah, because of the radiation and your system may respond in ways that are different, but there are treatments. I don't know if you've ever heard of something called EMDR.
I don't think so.
Okay. So these are not medication.
Okay.
But EMDR is called, it's eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And it's basically a treatment where you move your eyes like this with somebody who, I've been trained in it, and it is a releasing thing. And it's not about words. It's not about talk. It's about getting to like the emotional splinters, the deep stuff, but you don't have to tell them, you don't have to have all these feelings talked about. Because my guess is you've probably talked a lot. And then there's another kind of treatment called SE, somatic experiencing. Have you heard anything about that?
No.
It's another kind of treatment that's not about like getting into your head and more about sort of moving into how we often hold trauma in our body. That in ways we don't know it. There's a wonderful book by a Dutch researcher, and it's called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's all about how we carry emotional stuff in our body. So those are two kinds of treatment that have nothing to do with giving you medication per se, that could be helpful. And I don't know if this is something that could be of use to you, but have you done any mindfulness or meditation kind of stuff? Is that possible for you or of interest?
Well, I'm a Christian, and I've looked at it from like a spiritual warfare standpoint and those kinds of things as well. So that's another link in the chain.
Yeah. Okay. The main thing is that I don't lose hope, because the fact that you're struggling now doesn't mean you always will be. And it is completely natural to have, deep and difficult sequela to carry forward after you've been through an experience like that, especially because back in the 90s, that's when Liza was ill. She died in 96. People didn't talk to kids in this way about their illness. And so my guess is you went through your experience without anybody really talking to you so much about what was going on. And yeah, so that's kind of stuff that you've been just carrying forward. Yeah, I wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you. In my network, we talk about, we're within about a 10-year span of each other, and we call each other the generation that slipped through the cracks because the research wasn't there.
Yeah, that's so true. And what do you do with the pain over that? Yeah. But I'm glad you have some allies in there with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Great job. Great question. Thank you so much. I want to circle back to something you talked about earlier that I thought is it's near the end of your book. You talk about the concept of asynchronous grieving within a family, and how we've talked about those big emotions. You mentioned numb. Like, some people are approaching it all differently, but yet you're in a family unit and you are trying to move forward together in grief in some way while still relating to each other as you process separately. Can you talk a little bit more about asynchronous grief, and then what, I don't know, like, how do you guys approach this? Like, what have you, I'm sure you've had some of this in your family, maybe even.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's really common, because all of us process grief in our own way, and nobody's on the same timetable. In fact, it is, I believe, one of the major causes of marital discord and divorce in the setting of an ill child, because one partner is processing it in some way at some point in a different time frame and in a different way than the other partner. So one thing is, bottom line, you respect everybody's process. Nobody's doing it right or wrong. So some people, after a diagnosis or a loss, a parent might dive into work, and they don't want to talk, no feelings. They just can't. And their partner is like grieving that there's a diagnosis, their child has cancer. And what do you do with that? And I think if you come from a place of, I respect that that's what you need to do, and I need you to respect that this is what I need to do, then the question is, where can I, the partner who needs to do stuff with feelings, go with my feelings if you can't be there for me in this way at this moment? So it isn't something that has to pull you apart. It could be something that pulls you together, actually. You've got a process and you have to go through it. Same thing with kids, that sometimes kids don't process a diagnosis or a loss right away. And so I think it's, we parents can hover and, how are you feeling today and all that stuff. And it's a dreaded question from most kids. By the way, if you have teenagers, please don't have any serious conversations in the car, because I want you to know that all of my teenage patients tell me that when their parents have very difficult things to bring up, they wait till there's a car ride and they bring it up in the car. And I think that's because you're a captive audience, and it does, sadly, mean there's very little eye contact. So a parent who's feeling awkward bringing something up, right? But in any case, if you have a child who isn't necessarily showing the things that you're feeling, that's okay. So I think the bottom line is asynchronous grieving is normal. How about universal as the right word? And it is something to be very aware of, because it really can pull families apart. And that's just so sad at a time when you've already had so much loss that you may, to try not to have further loss amongst each other.
Love it. It sounds like, if I can ask you a follow-up on that, so you were kind of inviting people to just sort of call it out and to say, here's what I'm needing. I think I'm needing right now. And this is what, and to sort of address it head on.
Yes, I am somebody who was a very shy kid, but has learned to be direct. And now I say things directly, hopefully with tact and compassion, but I don't believe in being inauthentic. So I try to just be as true to what I think and feel as I can, aware of timing and how things are said. But yes, and also I think that if you presume from the get-go that everybody's going to do it in their own way, then there's no conflict about it. I remember at the very beginning, my husband and I looked at each other and said, wow, we just do things. This is just going to be a very different process for the two of us. And when my daughter was diagnosed as terminal, my husband was like sort of in shock for like the whole time. And I am somebody who has very little capacity for denial. I was already there I was already grieving. And so we were not in sync in that way. And so I've lived through this and trying to figure out how can I get what I need. He's doing what he needs to do. And then I read something. It's a book. It's called The Good Marriage, and in it, I'm going to paraphrase, but the way what is a good marriage or a good partnership or whatever? It's when you take turns being crazy. So in
We
some
need that on
ways,
a
if you're
shirt.
Yeah, that's taking turns being crazy.
so in some ways, if you're asynchronous, it may even be a way to think about it is maybe that's good because you're taking turns doing it. And so it isn't only bad. And this was what I'm trying to say.
I think it's great. It reminds me of that Mr. Rogers said that love is an active word, like striving. You're striving with people to
I
accept
love
them
that.
wherever they are and whoever they are, exactly who they are. So I think that that's very helpful for me. And I'm sorry, that was a bit of a selfish question for me, but I'm
No,
thankful for
no.
you addressing it.
This is a big one that's kind of large encompassing. So survivor's guilt. And I'm going to put that into two parts for you. So there's the survivor's guilt of the parents and the siblings afterwards and after the death of a child, but also because our community involves all of the families, those that are currently going through treatment and the survivors. We have a grant from the South Dakota Department of Health that has helped to pay for this, and it focuses on survivorship. And I know that there's a lot of families out there and part of our community that their child is a 5-year survivor, some are a 10-year, some are a 15-year survivor, even though they're still continuing to deal with side effects. Some are completely healthy. But at the same time, even it's tough for them because they're dealing with survivor's guilt themselves. Do you have suggestions or recommendations for both sides of that coin?
I'm not a big believer in guilt as a good thing. I think that it serves a function in society. Obviously, we have to feel responsible for our actions with other people, but it's mostly counterproductive. And so whenever I hear about survivor guilt, and it is really common, so I'm glad you brought it up. I think that the best thing that you can do is help somebody know that the fact they survived is a blessing. And that is, it has no bearing. Their survival did not in any way cause somebody else to not survive. So, they're independent events. I survived, somebody else didn't. And so I feel like it enables somebody who survives something to not feel like in any way they've done harm. They just understand that was their path. They survived and they were lucky. And also, sometimes it's helpful to turn that painfulness into making good. My daughter, who survived her sister's death, felt guilty that she was a normal kid and was, growing up and going to be able to do all sorts of things that Liza wasn't going to be able to do. And she didn't really know what to do with that at first. But between high school and college, she spent a year in Africa helping kids in orphanages and refugee camps because she said, I've got to find some way to give back to kids. And she was doing a blog and to show people what they don't want to see, that there are kids who are suffering not here, right in front of them, from all sorts of things, from famine, from illness. And so sometimes it's helpful to take whatever guilt you may feel, not that you have to, but if it helps you to feel like you want to do something good for people who are suffering, that can always help. And I think as a parent, if you have a child who has survivor guilt, I would just do my best to vehemently say, you have no reason to feel guilty for having survived. It's a blessing. It's a blessing on this earth that you survived. And, I think that some people who say, your father, your mother, your sister, your brother would have wanted you to be happy and all that stuff. I have to say that's never been convincing to somebody who's struggling with survivor guilt that I've talked to. So I don't use that, but I do say that their happiness in no way caused the illness or the death of the person who they survived after.
I think you accurately predicted the follow-up question that both Rob and I thought of right there. Yeah, I'm worried about laying too heavy a burden on somebody that they have to suddenly do all the living for someone who passed away and do all of the achieving and all of that sort of thing.
Yes. Oh, that is so great. There is a phenomenon called the replacement child. And so we had a son. I got pregnant 6 months after Liza died. I was turning 40. So at that point in time, back in the 1990s, just to date me, everybody, it was like, if you're going to get pregnant, you do it now, because after 40, it's not like going to happen. And I was very fortunate that I got pregnant. But we were aware of this phenomenon. I want to help other people think about it. The replacement child, that child who survives after a child had died, it's their job to do the job of both children, of the child who died and themselves. And that's way too much for any child to carry. It's hard enough to be it yourself, and nonetheless carry yourself and somebody else's the expectations of other people for that other person. So I just think it's something to be mindful about and to help families be aware of and sort of talk about. We're a family who talks. We talked to our son about it. We said, you're going to hear a lot about Liza, and she was great, and we wish you had met her. And you're going to see pictures of her, but your job is to be you, and not to be Liza, and not to be Molly, and not to be anybody else on earth but you. And so that's a thing that a parent can reinforce.
Two things. I know it's his birthday today.
Well, this week.
This week. Oh,
You're
even
celebrating
better,
it
so we
today,
can
right?
preemptive
Yeah.
strike
We're
this
celebrating
birthday thing.
today. Yes.
So do we want to sing now?
I think so. I
think
think
we
we need
should
to sing
sing
happy
now.
birthday. Yes. Just so there's
Turn your
video
volume
record.
up really, really loud on your computer, Dr. Lister. And I'll start us off. Me. Happy birthday.
What's his name? What's his name?
Solomon.
Solomon.
Solomon. There we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Solomon. Happy birthday to you.
Wow.
And we won't do the chicken part that all the kids do
that
nowadays.
rah, rah, rah thing.
Yeah.
I did have a question, or I kind of I'm wondering about. You talked earlier, mentioned briefly about parenting a memory, and we talked a little bit about it. Do you have any other ways that your family has approached parenting Liza's memory for your son and for anybody else that you can think of? Things that you've done to celebrate stuff or to call it out, and the ways that she is still with you all throughout your days.
Yeah. So parenting the memory, just to spell the concept out, is that you don't stop parenting a child who dies. They are still there. They're in your hearts, and you are parenting their memory, meaning bringing them forward with you in some way in memory. And so we've done it a few ways, some of which are going to sound very weird. But early on, every birthday that she had, we served some of her favorite foods to eat. And they were, it could be an odd mix. I don't know if you know Mike and Ike candies, but she loved them. So a meal for her birthday would be watermelon, Mike and Ike candies, and French fries. That was dinner. My kids loved it. These were Liza's favorite foods, and we're going to celebrate her birthday by eating them. When she was not long after she died, every year for maybe about 5 years, and bear with me because the environment, it's very environmentally incorrect to do this, but we bought a helium balloon and we let my son or my daughter pick out which one, but Liza was a Disney fanatic, as she watched movies over and over again, because what else can you do in a bone marrow transplant unit?
Yep.
And so often to be at Disney, and we would take that balloon to the park, her favorite playground, and we would let it go up in the air. And it was just to her. And when my son was 3, it was his turn to pick the balloon first time. So I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be a disaster, because what 3-year-old is going to let go of a balloon they just chose to, for themselves? And we got to the park and I'm thinking, oh no. So my older daughter, my son, my husband, and myself, and some friends. And to our surprise, because he understood the significance of it, even at 3, he put his hand up and said, "This is for you, Liza," and he let it go. And I mean, I'm getting teary even thinking about it now. And one year, Molly attached a note to the balloon to Liza, saying, "I picked out this balloon just for you. I hope you like it, and I hope you're feeling okay. I think about you all the time." And she let go of it in the park, and it got caught in a tree. And Molly started to cry. And I thought, oh no, what am I going to do? Because she had written this note. She so wanted Liza to get it wherever she thought Liza was. And so the wind blew and it flapped the note open. So I was able to say, oh, look, the wind blew so that Liza can see it. And I bet you if we come back in a few days, the balloon won't be in that tree anymore. It will have gotten free and up there. It had gotten, I don't know who took it down or whatever, but it was not there a few days later. So we let balloons go. I obviously talk about her. I give talks in honor. I feel like I carry on for her because she cannot. So I'm doing some of the work she wanted to do, working with kids who are sick. And I encourage all people to do anything like that. Sometimes people may name a something, like at the child's school. They planted, actually at my older daughter's school, there's a tree with a plaque with Liza's name and the name of Liza's siblings on it, and saying, the dates of her life, 1990 to 1996. So there are anything that you do that's concrete can be very helpful.
This is good stuff. I think maybe we should have you back for a whole different seminar called when parenting the memory goes horribly awry, and how to backpedal away from it. And,
Yes, right.
that was a fantastic story, and what a great job for you to be able to think of something that would still provide her that she could be a part of that moment. I am through most of my questions. I would ask if you guys, is there anyone else that has another question about this, about any of these things that we talked about today? If you'd like to ask a live audience question right now, if anyone online would like to jump on and ask anything else, I want to make sure we give you the time that you need as well.
Yep, we'll give a couple minutes there just to make sure and double check whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. And
for those of you that are here, if you need to get up, you can always do that.
Yeah, you can get up and walk around a couple of, there's plenty of donuts, so grab yourself some more donuts. And we will continue. We know that we're closing in on Dr. Lister's time. And so again, we'll have some things afterwards here, but we want to make sure that we address everything. And yeah, to reiterate what Dr. Lister was saying about the balloons, for us, Ian's, we would do different things, and whether that's his heavenly birthday, we call it that, or his rebirth day, the day that he was initially diagnosed and 30 minutes from death, or his actual physical birthday, which was March 10th. And Nicole, this is many years back, and she's like, Ian, anywhere you want to go. Where do you want to go? Arby's. Dude, anywhere. Fancy and Arby's. Okay, so we celebrated at Arby's, but this year it was Red Lobster, and both of our kiddos had speech issues when they were little, and
They sound like they were from Boston.
They were, yeah. Our speech teacher literally said if they were from the East Coast, they wouldn't qualify for speech, because khakis, do you need your car keys or your khakis? And so it was always Red Lobster. And so, yeah, we went out there just this past week or last weekend to celebrate that. So the celebrations continue, and to continue those memories are important.
I do want to make sure that we, Dr. Lister, before we have to say goodbye to you, that we give you a bit of a moment for us to all say thank you, because I'm very thankful that you take the time to do this. And I know you have actually a decent amount of family at your house right now, and they've all left you just kind of go with us for a while. So thank you for spending your time with us. I think our day was much better with you in it.
It's
why
really
don't-
been a delight to meet the people I got to meet and to be with you guys.
We're going to round of applause as loud as we can here real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. And you were saying?
It's a very important time in my family's life. And Dan, actually, you had brought this up beforehand, and that is that my husband is terminally ill. And so this birthday for my son is probably his last with his dad. And I mean, he's a grown up, he's 26, but it is still really, really sad. And that the things that we experienced with Liza have actually helped us. So one of the things I wanted to say is that if you are with children who have experienced an awful loss, there are many things that can come out of it, like a really deep compassion for other people, and an ability to be with difficult feelings in the setting of other painful things that happen in life. And so it's a terrible thing if you have a child who has cancer, or a child who doesn't survive their cancer, or you survive and you still have all the trauma of having gone through it. But there are good things that can come out of it. And I really just want to spend a minute to say that. A very wise pediatrician, when my daughter was first diagnosed, said something which I'll never forget, obviously, and that is, there's always hope. It just may need to be redefined. And we did that when Liza, first we hoped that she'd be cured, then we hoped that she'd have a day with less pain. And, we just kind of keep redefining what our goal is, to find some way to feel like there's something we're going for. So I can think of it. I also want to say, I talk about this in the book. I don't believe we move on after experiences in life that are difficult. I think of it as we move forward with it. It's kind of become part of the fabric of who we are. And everybody who spoke today shows that, it is now a part of your every cell. And so I don't know what more to do with it, but I feel like in society, we're told we have to move on. And I don't think that's actually what we do. So therefore, I don't want to encourage people to feel like they have to do it. You can still engage deeply in life as it is now, current reality, and be moving forward while you still recognize all that you've been through. All right, that's enough for me.
Beautifully said.
I love that. I think
Yep.
it's awesome, because we are carrying these things with us and representing that person and remembering them all throughout the day. So it's just such a neat thing. I think one of the things that I felt was how deep, whenever you feel deep loss, it carves out a space for the needs of others and the empathy for others. And that's what I hope it always does for me. And,
Yes. Yep.
I want to, which we need to formally say goodbye to her.
Yes.
I think let's do,
Yep.
sorry, we're pointing over, sorry, Dr. Lister, we're pointing over there because you're over there, but yeah, technically you're right here.
Yes. Thank you again
Yes.
so much for joining us.
Thank you for spending your time with us. And we can say our formal goodbye now. We'll continue. We have a couple more things we wanted to introduce. Mrs. South Dakota 2020 International 2024. She's in the house and she's got bright yellow pants on. But we wanted to say a quick goodbye to you and thank you. And I hope we can do something like this again with you, because you are a great source of knowledge.
Anytime. It's been an honor, really, to be with you guys, with everybody there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
So what we'll do is, I think maybe take
We'll
like
take
a 5 minute. Yeah, we'll just take
5-minute intermission.
our intermission. I think we even actually have a slide that says intermission.
Why don't we pull up that one now so we can all walk around and pick
Look
our
at that,
noses?
see?
Yeah,
We're
I feel
getting
much
good at
better.
this, yes.
I'm gonna pick my nose now.
Yeah. When does that stop you? Donuts, water, coffee. We got plenty.
Bathrooms.
So please, yep. Bathrooms are out there as well. So stretch your legs about 5 minutes.
Yep.
And then we'll be back live. So those of you that are online, just hang tight, and we'll be back in a couple. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and if everybody can find a seat, we'll get back at it. And we don't have a lot left here. It'll definitely be done before noon. But go ahead and finish up and have a seat again. And
I mean, we can just go. They can do whatever they like.
yeah, they can do anything they want, except these guys that are right in the camera view. I mean, come on,
Everybody
that's
say hi to our live
yeah,
audience.
exactly.
I think so. We'll move in from now. We're going to talk about stuff coming up in the future, and we're going to talk about our friend Becca, who's here today, and kind of an exciting project / tool that we that she's been working with Voices Against Cancer to create.
Yes. Yep. We
Do you want to jump in there now?
let's just jump in there
Let's
now.
do this. So what
Yes.
I'm going to do is I want to tell you guys that our friend Becca has been involved in St. Baldrick's head shavings for years, and she's the head. I don't know. She
The head barber.
manages all. She's the head barber.
Barber
so she manages
coordinator.
all
Barber
of those
coordinator,
people.
yeah.
Yeah. And so Becca has been here with us for this event, but she's also been partnering in the background with Voices Against Cancer to develop this really cool thing. So I want her to talk a little bit about her connection to childhood cancer, and then also to show you what she's been working on.
Awesome. Thank you guys for letting me be part of this. I am in a avenue with you guys with childhood cancer in the asset that my family also has traveled the journey of having a child diagnosed with cancer. That's where my passion has came with this. That's how I got connected with St. Baldrick's and their group and with Rob and all the things. So first and foremost, I am a mom, a wife. I am Mrs. South Dakota International 2024. And the reason I chose to go forward with this and utilize this is so that I can promote childhood cancer, because that's something myself I have been very passionate about since our daughter was diagnosed. Actually, we're going on almost 12 years ago now, which is awesome and amazing to be on this side of it. And with our journey, as many of you guys have seen, we've met lots of amazing people and families. Our daughter was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma at 4 years old. She went through 2 years of treatment and is a healthy, crazy, outgoing 17-year-old junior in high school today. Yes, something everyone, that's what we fight for, and that's why we do the things that we do, why we have this community. And I'm also a salon owner here in Sioux Falls. And so that is also then how I got plugged in with Rob, and again, why I'm the barber coordinator. And so I get all the crazy ladies up on stage to get all the other people, crazies up on stage to get them to shave their heads for this awesome cause. So yeah, we love being a part of that. I think this year is going to be my 8th year, I believe, 8th, 9th, something like that.
You're
Yeah,
getting close to a decade. Yep.
yeah, we're getting close. I have yet to shave my own head. I'm not doing that quite yet, but
You look a lot
anyways.
of people shave mine, though, I've noticed.
Yeah. We'll shave anyone else's, but yeah, I'm not there yet. But anyways, yes. So I really appreciate you guys opening up, sharing your stories that you even have today has been just really touching and actually motivating for me also as I go through this journey and try to develop some things for our community. And so with that, I've got a few notes here because I like to ramble and mumble jumble also. So as we've talked about today, treatments, as we've all seen, have really advanced, obviously, over the years. Mortality rates have gone down and decreased, but it's still surprising to see the amount of children that are diagnosed day after day, even hour after hour, and what that does to families. And during our journey with childhood cancer, we realized the importance of a community of other people who are in the same boat as us, and what that support was like for us during those years of treatment, what it was like to have people come alongside of us, not just those in your everyday life, but also those who are currently walking that journey with you or who have been down that path in some asset or another. And so that's when I decided with this pageant platform, what I wanted to do was childhood cancer support. And what I wanted to do with that was to be able to create more of a community. I've been obviously with St. Baldrick's and Voices Against Cancer the last few years as this has evolved also, which has been so fun to see. the growth of it just over this time, and what even that community has been like from the first year with our group of cancer families, as we call them, to just even the second year of what that has evolved into, and now what this next year is even going to hopefully be, because we are a community together as one, and we have to support each other. That's how we get through these times. And so with that, Rob and I kind of talked. I came to him and I said, this is what I want to do. I always feel like people saying that there's research and we need more funding and we need XYZ. Yes, we do. That's huge in this industry, I call it, in this world, in this diagnosis, in this area of us. But what does that look like for us, and what can we do about that? We know it's always going to be a thing that is here. Unfortunately, there is always going to be the word cancer. We hope that there's more of a cure, but what does that mean when we're going through it and when these diagnoses are still happening? And like we heard today, when these kiddos are, you know, maybe in their last stages of treatment, what can we do together to come alongside each other? And so that's where we came up with our caring support SACs. And so this is kind of just another avenue of Voices Against Cancer, but what we're hoping is to create a community of survivors, of families, of newly diagnosed families. Like I said, all avenues of diagnosis, treatment, past treatment, so that we can have so many different areas to help guide and support each other. And so with our Comfort Care SACs, this is going to be something that is meant to provide support for families as they're newly diagnosed, is kind of the idea of this, and to come alongside of them early on in their diagnosis and just provide some of the necessities basically that families need when they're going through treatment, while they're traveling, going through treatment, whether they're here in Sioux Falls, whether they're traveling to Mayo, maybe they live across the state and they're having to come to Sioux Falls. I'm sure there's all different areas of people that live in this community. We were fortunate enough to live in Sioux Falls, so we didn't have to do a lot of traveling. But as Rob and I talked early on in this journey of trying to establish this, we kind of thought, you know, what were things that stuck out to us as families going through treatment, and what were things that we needed or we felt like really stuck out to us that helped us early on in it. And for our family, like I said, it was a simple backpack that we got early on when our daughter was diagnosed, right in the clinic. Rob's family, one of the things that stuck out was a cooler. And that was for them something that was a huge support for them when they were traveling back and forth for medications. As we know, a lot of the meds that kiddos need for treatment, they have to come with you wherever you go. And a lot of those are temperature sensitive. So that was kind of our first like light bulb moment of like, okay, we need to do something that incorporates both of those. And what else can we do with that? So we started brainstorming, which can be kind of scary and dangerous. But we started doing that. We talked with some child life specialists at the castle just to see too what things they saw a need for with patients also. And so that is kind of what we came up with. And like Rob said, we have a grant through the state, through the Department of Health, who is helping kind of launch this effort for us, which couldn't have came at a better time. Like I came to Rob and he was like, yes, he's like, please, like we have this awesome tool, this resource that we can use right now. So let's help these families and let's help create this community. And so with that, we are launching these. I think this week is kind of what we were calling like our launch week, which again, couldn't have came at a better time. So within these bags, kind of our starting kits that we're kind of playing with the idea of, and like I've even talked to a few of you already who have given me some great ideas to add to, or for maybe like our next batch of bags and those kinds of things. But these are gonna have what we said, like the necessities. Everybody always needs a blanket. I know we get a lot of blankets, but we wanted something that the kiddo could feel like was there, something that was like soft and comfy, but yet compact. We did not put any stuffed animals in there. Can I get a hallelujah? Rob and I decided we couldn't do one more of those. They'll get enough of those.
And the fleece tied blankets.
No more fleece tied blankets. We love you all, but yeah. Yes.
We still have about 20. They're good.
They're good. They're great. We'll have them forever and ever and ever. Yes, we love them all and we love you all, but yes, no more of those things. And then just some necessities like Nerf guns so that the little kiddos, you know, they have to have fun during this. You need to, you know, shoot the nurses. I heard from one family that their child could not even have a Nerf gun in the hallway anymore because it was getting shot at the nurses' screens and getting stuck to the screens, things like that. But we want them to have fun. Obviously, laughter is something that's going to help get them through this. So we did add a few little fun things, a few fake cockroaches, don't worry, to scare the nurses. We've got some thinking putty, just some little poppets, window clings just for something for them to do. We've got like a little anxiety coloring type notebook for mom and dad or the support family that way. Some coloring books even for the younger kiddos. Some grippy socks that are way better than the hospital ones because they're fuzzy. Little eye masks. We've got like a little first aid kit. You never know when you're going to need Band-Aids, laxatives, another hallelujah for chemo kiddos. We've got kind of another, shampoos, conditioners, some lotion,
Puke
chapsticks,
bags.
all
There's
the
an
things.
emesis
Puke,
bag, yeah.
yeah, puke bags, because we all know we get in the car and we never seem to have a puke bag, right? Toothbrush, all the things. Fun water bottle. I know for my family, it was like, if you get one more bottle of water down, you get a toy, or you get to go do this, you get to do that. So
Do you want to go get fluids?
yeah.
And drink.
Do you want an IV?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, you're like anything to make that fun and exciting. So we've got a fun little Voices Against Cancer water bottle. And then, like I said, the bags themselves are awesome. So this is what they actually look like. They I think you could probably move half a family in this.
man.
Yeah.
They're massive, but they're amazing. So if you don't need all of these necessities maybe with you all the time, you can pack your dog and bring him to the hospital, whatever you want. But in the bottom part, which is the awesome part, is that there is the cooler in there. So this whole bottom part unzips, and there's a freezer pack that we've also included in there. I don't want any of you dads sneaking any beers or anything in the back door with that, but it's meant for medications, us moms, maybe our bubblers, those kinds of things. But anyways, don't get us in trouble either with that. So this is kind of course, phone chargers. We all need those and we always forget those. So we've got kind of a top one for that. But anyways, so this is going to be kind of our thing. And our hope with this is that it's going to get into the hands of families within that first initial few days of diagnosis. With that, they're going to get a fun flyer in there about voices. And at that time, they can then connect with us, with Rob, with whoever when they are ready to. And that's kind of the key of this, is we don't want to be jumping in people's faces. Everybody processes things at a different pace and wants support and wants that community at a different time frame. And so with this, we're going to have them in the hands of the teams at the local hospitals for now, and they will hand them out within the first couple days. And then, like I said, in there will be the family assistance letter, which is something that Voices also helps support for these families for financial assistance, maybe food vouchers, gas vouchers, that kind of thing. And then they can reach out, and that's how we can plug them in with our amazing community of other families who have been down this path. So that's kind of a little nutshell of what this little area of our kind of path is with Voices, but there's going to be some other fun, exciting things also coming down the path here that we're hoping to create within this community too. So
That is awesome. Thank you
Thank
so
thank
much.
you guys. Thank you for letting me be
This
part
is-
of it.
And it's great stuff. I love, with all of the stuff in the Comfort Care Kit, you guys have thought ahead. Because of your experiences, you've thought ahead about, okay, this is like, there's the self-care cosmetic stuff, and there's phone charger things, because those always get lost. And then I love how there's like this opportunity for a kid to walk into their hospital environment and sort of decorate the environment, make it something of their own. The window clings and things like that you showed off are cool. And then you even have this bit of a anxiety journal.
Yeah, actually, we had gotten an idea of like the adult coloring books for the parents or for kids that are a little bit older, that they probably don't want like a Hello Kitty coloring book for the kiddos necessarily. So we did find this, and it's called Out of Your Mind. It's just a journaling and coloring book to distract your anxious mind. And so we just thought that would be something great because I'm just anxious anyways because I'm a middle-aged female. And then secondly, when you're going through something like this, it just elevates everything to a whole new level. And so when you're sitting there and your mind's going crazy in that hospital room day after day after day, it's just something that you can doodle in. And then it's also got like just some different things to distract your mind or like things to set set goals for, things to look
Perfect.
forward to for, even the parents. So
Yeah.
tried to incorporate a few things for everybody in there, because obviously this is like we talked about, it's a family journey, and everybody's on it together. And so we wanted to make sure everyone was included and taken care of as much as we can.
I love all of the pre-thought that was done
Yeah.
to it. I'm excited to take a few Nerf darts in the face.
Yeah.
You definitely will, I'm sure.
Definitely from families for families.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very
And
much
it's
so.
when we say we know what it's like, we truly do. And
Mhm.
yeah, we're always taking suggestions, but this is such a phenomenal thing, and to help as many as we can. So thank you, Becca,
Yes.
for that.
Thank you.
And so yeah, another round of applause
All righty.
for Becca.
I think
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
yes.
And I just kind of, I'll piggyback on what Becca was saying, that we can't do what we do without a community, and that's local, that's across the state, and even across the country now. And everything that we've been able to do today with all the stuff here has been through the generosity of our donors, of our sponsors, from the South Dakota Department of Health, and Voices Against Cancer. We have the 605 Pop Culture Con, and that's kind of the brainchild of Dr. Lou George, that brings together, what started all things geeky. And as Ian said, he would call himself a self-proclaimed nerd. And it's just, it continues to grow, but it's because of that. And it's because of that event that we've become a national partner. Voices Against Cancer is a national nonprofit partner with the St. Baldrick's Foundation. We are able to work with them on the research side of things, which a lot of times people don't like to give money to because it's research. It doesn't, but like you said one time, is we're not working to put a Band-Aid on it. We're working on a cure. We'll always be part of this community, and we're always here for support, but hopefully we don't have to fight the fight. And that's our ultimate goal. But we've got, the books from Dr. Lister are all free of charge to you because of those. Because of the Pop Culture Con, we have the Voices Against Cancer Family Assistance Fund, and we're going to include these little, and I'll laminate them and make them look all fancy, but these two will be provided in the Comfort Care kits, and basically it is a QR code that is direct form for families to fill out to receive direct family financial assistance. And like for us, we needed gift cards for gas. We were okay, we were financially okay and stuff, but that couldn't have come at a better time. And for others, it's groceries. For others, it might be needing assistance with rent. And being there and going through that, it doesn't matter. And that's another thing with Voices Against Cancer, is it doesn't matter where you're receiving treatment. It doesn't matter, because not everybody's cancer is the same. Not everybody's situation is the same. Everybody's different.
Mhm.
I can stand up here and I can say, I know what it's like. I've been there, but only to a certain extent. Every single person is different. Every single circumstance is different. And so, yeah, so we were able to get the books. We have some flyers, and everybody that's here can go ahead and grab these. And then we also have booklets from a gentleman named Angus Olson. And
You might know him better as he has a Facebook page called I Draw Childhood Cancer. He's an artist who lives in Australia and has made these wonderful resources after his daughter went through cancer treatment. And he discusses things at an age appropriate level, and has wonderful, like colorful illustrations about things about the hospital, things about lines, and
he does it during the day at his coffee bistro.
Yes.
And so that's
trains and stuff. It
yes,
sounds like.
yes,
So
exactly.
it's an interesting deal. So Angus has allowed us to print up all of these because of because of what Voices Against Cancer is, and his work. He wants these things distributed to families that need them. So we're actually any that don't get picked up here, we're going to bring to our intrepid child life specialists at the Children's Hospital at Sanford, and distribute a bunch there. So.
Yes, yep. And all we need is a heads up, and we're going to print more, and that'll be a continuing project as well. A little bit for the younger audience, but at the same time,
Yes.
it covers so many different things. So make sure and take a look at that before you go. And if anyone watching live. If anybody here also knows, because that's the only way that we're able to grow as a community, is anybody that needs this family assistance for whether it's gift cards to help with gas, lodging, anything else like that. That's what we're here for, and that's what we're about, is to build this community and to provide that support. With different things, we got 3 different
Yeah, we have
events
3
coming
different
up.
events. So the Pop Culture Con we've talked about, but there's also the one coming right up.
Yeah,
Is
yep.
March. We have a Skyforce game. Voices Against Cancer will be a presence at the Skyforce game on March 24th, which is that a Saturday?
That's a Sunday game.
Sunday.
Yep,
Sunday game.
yep. We had the previous one, and I believe, how did that go? Did he like it?
Good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah. The mascot's a little handsy.
Yeah.
I mean, only I've noticed to the really tall men. So yeah, like it's
what's their mascot?
Isn't it Thunder?
Storm.
Storm?
Thunder.
Yeah,
Thunder. Okay. But yeah, so we were able to have an event where the honored families were able to come. It was a fundraiser, and then we had a couple honored kids and honored siblings that were able to participate. And so yeah, Sunday, March 24th, the Skyforce game, we're gonna have a table there, and we are raffling off 2 different gift baskets. And we have I want to say we're over at over 100 entrants already.
Oh, wow.
And so we'll be able to do that. And then DJ Jer of Jer Events, who's
That's
here
who's
today.
running all of our technology. So the fact that this thing went off without a hitch, it's actually our wonderful David, who's been behind the black sheet the whole time. He's made us look so much better than we normally are.
Yes, he is our Wizard of Oz
to an astonishing level.
So there's they sponsor a Ties and Tiara event, and so that'll be coming up on April 13th, and we will have more information to come. We do have a Facebook page for all of our honored families, and so more information to come on the Ties and Tiaras event that they're going to do in honor of Voices Against Cancer. So dads, dust off your suits, and girls get on the tiaras. April 13th, and then yeah, I mean the 605 Pop Culture Con.
That's the big one, and that's the flagship event for Voices Against Cancer. And we have a video that sort of tells the story of that. But what it boils down to is it's the response of a good community that listens to the needs of families facing cancer in our area. One of the best things about this Sioux Falls, Sioux Empire area is that folks do want to help, and so they come out of the woodwork, and they a lot of really great, just nerdy people that I just love hanging out with. They come in. We do the St. Baldrick's head shaving at the same time as this event, and then it is otherwise. There's celebrities from Hollywood, all around Hollywood, all around the world.
Around the world. Last year there was Lawrence McCord, who's the big guy from Lord of the Rings. We've had Ian McDermott from over the pond in England.
Yes,
I think he's in England.
He said he plays the Emperor in Star Wars, the scariest guy in Star Wars. And I said, "Hey, nice to meet you, sir. I've been afraid of you since I was 5." He's like, "I love hearing that."
And we have this year, and that's the thing, is we're trying to hit all different genres. And so we have our first Disney princess this year.
Yes.
If anybody's a fan of Beauty and the Beast.
I was going to ask Dr. Lister if it was Beauty and the Beast that was her daughter's
was her daughter's favorite. Yes.
I was like, ooh, it'd be
so Belle Paige O'Hara is going to be here, and
She'll
so to see these celebrities here is amazing. We have Emily Swallow, who is our first national ambassador, and she's just a heart of gold. She does fundraisers at all of the conventions that she's at. She took a personal connection with Spencer. And she's just been a godsend. She helps spread the word about our event, and it's the Friday night before is an event just for the families, and
she walks in circles we don't walk in, and she's told people about what the Voices Against Cancer is trying to do. And it's amazing to see the response of people in the entertainment industry and in films going, "Oh, how can we help with that? How do we what can we do?" And
our hashtag is Give Kids a Voice, and that's the goal, is that we are the fighters for our children.
She's every bit the keeper of the foundlings that she plays on Star Wars. So that's coming up. We actually are going to close today's broadcast with a video about that. And do we have anything else that we want to say?
thank you for everybody.
Yeah.
We see you, we hear you,
Yeah.
and we're just doing everything that we can.
I cannot think of a better way to spend a Saturday morning, but being able to be with all of you and to learn some things from this gal. So thank you for
Yes.
tolerating us and putting up with us and being such a great studio audience and people online. What are you still doing? It's Saturday. It's sunny out. No, just kidding.
Because they got to see our
Yeah, they
video
gotta
and
see our
then
video
they
at the end. We
can.
gotta
But now
do
we got to
that.
save it. We're saving it for prosperity. Please take home. Otherwise, I will
Yeah.
physically find out where you live and I will drop them off on your doorsteps.
You will get
So take plenty of
ding
donuts
dong
and
dashed
rolls
with donuts.
for your children. Take an extra large cup of coffee and a water, please, because that's less than we have to
Yeah.
do.
We don't have
And
to
then,
carry it away.
yeah,
You know?
any of these resources over here as well. So thank you all
You
for
all have
being
been
here.
wonderful, all of you here, and thank you for spending time with us. I hope that we can do this again, and I hope that we can continue to find loving and caring folks within the childhood cancer community to come in and be a part of it with us. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And I think that'll do it.
Cue the awkward silence.
I always like to stare at them. I'm going to stare at the camera.
Yeah.
Feeling in this room to see so much happiness in the front of such an appalling disease. And I wish you all future happiness together as a family.
Do it.
And no, we're not endorsed by More Grace Tour. And are we live still with the?
Oh, okay. We want to jump on again? Are we talking? still?
Well, we just want to make sure that we're off from.
I want to make sure we're
StreamYard,
off from
so
streaming.
You go double
Do we
check.
hit end show?
I'll
yet?
be the
Yeah, end
I'll be
slideshow.
the awkward at the end of the show. Everybody check your phone on the